Welcome to the Downtime from Aerofly with your host, Sheri Kasprzak, featuring everything you need to know from the week in manufacturing. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Downtime. If you've been following us for a while, you know that we were on a hiatus for a couple of months as we restructured things and things are a little different, but I'm still here to bring you the latest in manufacturing news and everything you need to know on the plant floor. You may notice that my dear friend Sarah Wen, who co-hosted the show with me, isn't on the show anymore, but she is definitely still a part of the Aerofly family on packaging OEM and other brands, and I have no doubt that she will make special appearances all the time. So I'm still here to provide everything you need to know about manufacturing and the plant floor. So let's get into it. Today's episode is really kind of a fun. I had a great conversation with Limble's Chief Technology and Product Officer, Jason Penkethman. And there's something really cool over on plantengineering.com right now that Jason put together for us that I really think you should go take a look at. You know, we are talking all the time about energy efficiency and the ways that AI is straining the power grid and how this can be really disruptive. Instead of trying to figure out how to generate more electricity, perhaps the solution is already on your computer. And Jason walks through a really cool article about that very topic. So highly recommend you head over to plantengineering.com, check out Jason's article. I will link it anywhere you can find the Downtime podcast. So I think you should go check it out. With all the talk about artificial intelligence and AI and automation in industrial applications, I think it's more timely than ever. AI is straining the power grid, but are there ways that we can fix that problem that already exist on our computers? Go check it out from Jason Penkethman. He is the Chief Technology and Product Officer with Limble. And you'll find a lot of cool stuff going on at Plant Engineering these days. We have a lot of content across different industries where automation is a big thing. There's a lot of conversation now around reshoring. I did a piece a little while ago on my LinkedIn newsletter, Factory Reset for Plant Engineering, talking about reshoring and whether manufacturers are ready to reshore. There's been a lot of conversation around it this year with talks of tariffs and whether or not companies are really ready to start manufacturing in the USA again. There's a lot of pros and cons for it. And I think the conclusion that I've come to is that most small and medium-sized companies just aren't ready for reshoring. And that's for a lot of different reasons. Would love it if you would go check out that issue of Factory Reset. You can find Factory Reset through Plant Engineering's LinkedIn page, and I will link that as well. There's a lot of great insights, and I would love it if you would give me a subscribe over on Factory Reset. I think there's a lot of really topical things going on, a lot of great insights from different industry leaders. I think that you would get a lot out of it. That's just my take. So without further ado, I would like to jump right into this amazing interview that I have with Jason over at Limble. He, as I mentioned before, he is the Chief Technology and Product Officer for Limble. We got into a lot of great conversation about asset management, and I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. So go check it out. All right. And we have today a very special guest on the Downtime podcast. We have Jason Penkethman. He is the Chief Product and Technology Officer with Limble. Thank you so much, Jason, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your role at Limble, how long you've been there.
Yeah, so you just read out my title, but what I do in practice is so I run product development. So all our software development and product management. I lead that function at the company, and I've been with the company for almost 3 months, so not that long.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on the new role. That's amazing. Tell us a little bit about, Limble's suite of products when it comes to things like manufacturing maintenance, predictive maintenance in the manufacturing sector.
Yeah, so we focus on CMMS, which is computerized. What's the maintenance management system? It's a bit of a mouthful, but
It is.
maintenance management is essentially what it is, right? So the computerized part, of course, is software that we're using to provide a mobile app for the technician and a web app for the people in the back office. And so our software enables manufacturing facilities or any other building that has assets for them to do all of their proactive maintenance on their assets.
Excellent. Now, just in general, kind of broadly, can you kind of tell me how mature predictive maintenance systems are across manufacturing today?
How much are they predictive?
Yeah, how mature are they? Like the average manufacturing organization, what sort of predictive maintenance, I guess, programs do you think are in place, and how mature are they? Are they, really kind of this well-oiled machine, and they can get really a good grasp on what sort of maintenance they are looking at coming up, or do most manufacturers need a little bit of work on that?
Yeah, well, a lot of our customers are on a very different part of that journey from, becoming reactive to proactive. It really is a maturity curve. And in fact, we did a survey of 200 of our customers and found out that only 50% of those, only half of them are actually doing proactive maintenance. A lot of it is reactive. So even for our customers who've been using the system for some time, it's still quite a big investment for a lot of companies to go from that sort of reactive to proactive. And then when you think of being proactive, there's a predictive element to it, right? If you want to get even more mature, you want to get predictive, and then probably the end game is to be prescriptive.
Right.
And there's some differences between them of those approaches, but yeah, a lot of our customers are on various parts of that journey, and it does take some time for that maturity to sort of build itself out of the companies.
Absolutely. Would you say that kind of having a reactive approach, would you say that that is more expensive for most manufacturers, that if they kind of like switched the way that they're thinking, that it might actually be a cost savings down the road?
Of course, yes. I mean, moving to reactive to proactive is a huge cost savings. In fact, we've got some customers. There was one customer, Tara Manufacturing, I believe it was. They went to from a reactive to proactive, and they saw an improvement, about 83% reduction in downtime.
Wow.
And so we think at downtime, if in the manufacturing facility and assets go down, that then they have to shut things down, and that costs money. And so just in removing or reducing their downtime, it saved them $100,000 in a year. So there's some big cost savings there for companies that want to get proactive to reduce those downtime costs. But there are other benefits as well from an ROI perspective. Parts management is a big area. And so, you have an inventory of parts for when things break. If you don't know what's breaking, you don't know how often it's breaking, it's very hard to plan what parts you need in your inventory. And so sometimes customers will have too much inventory of parts, or maybe out of parts that they need when they need them, and then they have to wait. So it's not a as well known an issue, but the parts management aspect can be quite costly as well, integrated into the whole preventative maintenance management system.
Absolutely. So kind of run me through, the technologies that are the most effective for companies that are looking for that sort of predictive side of maintenance. Of what can organizations do? Maybe give a few examples of, something that a company who is like just starting out on their journey, and they're very reactive, and they want to kind of do some things to get ahead of maintenance, all the way through companies that are just kind of like trying to get to that prescriptive stage.
Yes. Well, probably for most of your viewers, everyone knows that data is the key, right? So, where does that data come from? It
Absolutely.
essentially comes from knowing what your assets are. So, first of all, having an accurate reflection or accurate record of all of your assets. And then the next thing is capturing all that asset data in a system, of course, and then being able to collect data on those assets. And the data can come from many, many sources. Your technician is probably the most valuable source, right? What assets are likely to fail and when. And so your technicians are the most valuable part. And that's where we actually focus a lot on the technician experience. But to broaden that question out to where you were is, collecting data from the assets themselves, we can use IoT. So a lot of equipment has that data which is available. It can show readings from pumps and other heat indicators or any other sort of metric that's coming from that equipment, a SCADA system, for example. And so collecting all that data from multiple systems and then running that into a maintenance management system like Limble's, then you can track the asset themselves, and from there you also want to build in some maintenance planning. And so that's typically going to come first off from the manufacturer recommended intervals for maintenance. But again, your technician knows even more. So your technician will want to go in there and provide some human oversight into what's the best way to kind of set up these preventative maintenance schedules. So once you've got those pieces of data, you've got your assets, your data flowing in from the health of these assets, and then you've got your preventative maintenance cycles. Then you can start to build a data set of your journey onto becoming more prescriptive and predictive. And anyone who's worked with data before, actually, that's a lot of my background is on data management, is large data sets can provide you a lot of insights, and correlation between these data sets can give you, say, these predictive insights into the probability of something failing over a period of time, or the correlation of different data points providing with outcomes. And then you want that information to drive some of your decisions about what then you will do to be more proactive and say predictive maintenance.
Absolutely. Yeah. So data is actually connected to my next question for you. There's a lot of data that companies that are looking to handle asset management are collecting. How can manufacturers handle the explosion of this asset data, especially when it comes to connected equipment? If they're getting data from all sorts of different sources and equipment, how can they make sure that that's all accurate and clean data?
Well, experience from a technician is probably still the best key. A technician, there's nothing that replaces the value of a technician that's got a lot of experience working with equipment. But you do need to have trust in the data itself. So you have an explosion of data, but can you trust that data? And so it also requires some of human oversight there to look at the quality of the data. Can you trust it? What's the source of the data? Is it falling in expected ranges? And so IoT data is great. It comes from equipment, but then, do you want to monitor everything? And,
Right.
and what data is actually going to lead to certain outcomes? So yes, there's a data explosion, but I think the technician is probably the best person to be able to state what's the most valuable data to help me make decisions and perform maintenance on equipment, because there is so much there. But it's not just knowing which data, it's also having trust in the data that you're getting.
Right, absolutely. In terms of all of those different systems, are there certain best practices for integrating, the CMMS with enterprise asset management and enterprise resource planning systems? Is there a way that can be done sort of seamlessly or at least easily?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a staged approach.
Mhm.
And so I think the first step is to implement a CMMS, a maintenance management system first. Get that running. Get all your asset data in. Get all your preventative maintenance working. See the efficiencies right away, because you can something that some of our customers have said that they plan for 2 years to get this implemented, but within months they're already seeing the benefit. So I would focus on getting those systems in place first, then start to build it out with integrations. And the most logical ones to extend to are ERP systems. And ERP is enterprise resource planning. So you think of an SAP or anything where you're doing the financial and accounting sort of aspects of your business, integrating to them is probably the next step. But I wouldn't do that first. I would focus on the actual maintenance management system first and then expand to ERP because each of them have their different source of truth. I would want your maintenance management system, like what Limble is offering, to be your source of truth for all of your preventative maintenance. And I want your ERP system to be the financial source of truth. And you want those two to talk to each other, but you don't want to have them conflicting about which is the source of truth. And so I think that that's an important sort of staged approach. And you get one in place and you get your benchmarking done and you focus on the depth of that integration before you expand into other areas.
Absolutely. That's wise advice. Like last question for you. Want to kind of get your one piece of advice that you would give to an organization that is super reactive and really wants to do one thing that's going to make them a little bit more predictive in their approach to asset management. What's the one piece of advice you would give?
I think building a culture of accountability into workflows. And the way to do that is the person who is responsible for the workflows, give them some control and autonomy over that implementation. And so we pride ourselves on focusing on the experience of the technician. We built our app around the technician experience. And I think if you give them the right tools, they're more likely to be willing to be accountable.
Absolutely. That's
And
great.
I know that's how I feel about my work is that what do they say? Responsibility without control is you kind of have to want to have control over your outcomes. So I think providing the right tools to the right people with their hands on the tools is the biggest one, and giving them a sense of accountability. And then they're going to want to see the outcomes because it benefits them. It benefits their work. So I would say that's the main thing.
Yeah, yeah, I love that approach and really putting the focus on, a human and, the technician who is doing their job as opposed to, the automation or the system. So that's a great approach, I think. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jason, for joining us on the downtime. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it.
Jason, thank you so much for joining me on the downtime. It's always a pleasure chatting and some great insights. So, I think that brings us to the end of our brand new version of the Downtime podcast. As I mentioned, I'm Sheri Kasprzak. I am the executive editor of Aerofly's automation and control brands, and that's control engineering, plant engineering, and consulting specifying engineer. And a quick note, some big news for the company. WTWH Media has rebranded as Aerofly, and that's the parent company for those three brands I just mentioned. So go check it out. You can find the full story about our rebranding over at plantengineering.com. You can also find the downtime on SoundCloud. You can find us on YouTube, and you can find us at plantengineering.com. Also, don't forget to go follow our LinkedIn page at the Downtime Podcast. So again, I'm Sheri Kasprzak, executive editor of Aerofly's automation and controls brands, and we'll catch you in the next one.